Know your numbers. Episode 4, profitability. And of course the question here is, are you profitable? Now, this is the last in a series of 4, that's why it's called episode 4, about the numbers in your trade business, right? And the ones you need to keep on top of to make sure your business is healthy. I'm hoping to persuade you that you should keep on top of them, that you should track them, right? Numbers are important. You should do something about it. You should actually do something about it, not just watch my videos and go, yeah, I should, you're right. But actually do something, right? I'd really like it if you took some action. That doesn't have to be business coaching, although of course that would be nice for me. But I've also built a little series of tools for you to use. You don't have to pay for them, and you don't have to do business coaching. You can read the workbook, watch the video, download the tracker, and start tracking your own numbers and making your own decisions. So if you don't want business coaching, I hope you at least do that and take some control over your numbers. So in this series, I'm explaining some of the numbers, why they're important, what you can learn from them, what they help you spot, what problems they help you spot, so that you can go and fix the problems. Okay, I've written a workbook, like I said. Download the Big Numbers workbook. There'll be a button at the end of the video. Read it. Watch the video that comes at the end. It's about 20 minutes. That explains these numbers in some more detail. And then go and download the Big Numbers tracker. Track your own. Okay. Of course, if you do find you want some business coaching, don't be shy. Go ahead and book yourself a 10-minute chat. Okay. So this week's numbers, I want to talk about profitability. Now, I did talk about profitability when we talked about the big numbers, right? Which is revenue, gross profit, and net profit. And we track those from your profit and loss. So from your Xero or your MYOB or your QuickBooks, from the profit and loss report that you get every month, or you can look at every month if you choose to. And we track them, and that looks at your profitability from a kind of a company point of view, but it's also old data by the time you get to see it, right? It's last month. It's necessarily last month. It's how much you did make last month, and it's, a couple of weeks old by the time you get to see it. So it's not quite current. It's useful, and it's useful from a holistic point of view, but it's not quite current. So there are 2 other sets of numbers which give us some more immediate feedback or some more specific and focused feedback. And I'm talking 2 things. I'm talking with break-even point, and I'm talking about profitability by job. So for each of your jobs. So let's start with break-even point, because it's next. Okay. What we do in the tracker is we take those labor costs that we calculated, and we take the sum of those. So your annual labor cost, it actually takes it from one spreadsheet and puts it into the next. And we take your overheads cost, and we take that and we break it down from a year to a month to a week to a day, and even to an hour if necessary. Okay. And you take those costs. We take your materials cost, which we calculate as a percentage of your revenue, and we map that against your weekly invoiced revenue, which you can get from your Xero or your MYOB. Right, so what that does is every week you get to see whether you were profitable or not compared to your break-even point. The break-even point, of course, is your labour plus your costs, plus your overheads rather, plus your materials, right? Anything above that is profit. Anything below that is a loss. So we get to see every week whether you've been profitable this week or not. So it does a couple of things, It helps us understand whether you're profitable straight away. So it gives us that instant feedback. And if you're expecting to be profitable and you're not, you can go shit and you can go and look for the problem. Often a week of not profitable is just, because invoices didn't go out this week, maybe have progress payments on projects or whatever. If you can reassure yourself that that's what's happening, happy days, you've got nothing to worry about. But if you see a consistent problem, you might go and investigate harder. So it gives us that immediacy of feedback. And it's quite comforting if you see that if you see that you're consistently trading profitably, you can be reassured. And in fact, the story is a business I work in where that exact thing happened, right? In the big numbers, the revenue and profit, we had 3 months unprofitable trading. We lost money 3 months in a row. But with the break even, we were trading profitably for most of those weeks anyway. We were able to notice and realize and reassure ourselves that we were trading profitably, but the reason we were losing money was because we were investing. We were investing in some infrastructure and some equipment that was going to allow us to grow a little bit down the track. So it was an investment we make. We weren't losing money. We were still trading profitably, right? Really reassuring to understand what's going on in our business and that we weren't just losing cash. So the next number we track is profitability of your jobs. You should be profitable on every job, shouldn't you? If you're not profitable on every job, you're missing out. Something's wrong. And if you're consistently not profitable on jobs, something's badly wrong and you really need to go and fix it. So what we do is we check your profitability on every single job. Okay? Now that, if you do small jobs, if you're doing 5 and 6 jobs and 10 jobs in a day, you might take random jobs and test them. But ideally, you get to as many of them as you can. Right? And if you've got the right reporting systems in place, they'll just tell you. If you've got them set up correctly in the first place, they should tell you in a way that you can trust. Okay, so whether you do it manually or whether you use your systems like ServiceMate or Arrowflow or those kinds of things to help you, I don't mind. The point is to check. Now, the point I want to make is you do a quote. Say you do a quote for $50,000 and you imagine that there's $15,000 in there of gross profit after your materials and your labour, right? You should know that. If you don't know that, we might go and have a look at your quoting and the way you do your quoting, because you should know how much profit you're quoting into your jobs. It would be nice to also know whether there actually was $15,000 of gross profit in that job at the end of the job, wouldn't it? It would be nice to be sure that it is as you think and that it is consistently as you think it should be. And if it isn't, if you thought there was 15,000 in your quote, turns out there was only 7, where did the rest of it go? Where did it go wrong? And lots of things could be going wrong, couldn't they? You could be quoting wrong. You could be not allowing enough time or enough materials. You could be misunderstanding what your subcontractors should be charging you. You guys could be taking too long. You could be quoting the right amount of time, they could be slow or taking the piss. All sorts of things could be happening, right? Mistakes could be happening. You might not allow for rain. You might not be allowing for access to site problems or other trades that you have to wait for. All sorts of things could be going wrong. You could be not charging for variations, that kind of thing, right? So the first thing to know is that you're not making the money you should. The second thing to do is figure out why and then stop that happening. So some stories. I'm going to illustrate with a few examples of this time because I've got lots and they're fun. Okay, some builders and I started doing this and we're looking at one of their jobs in particular. We found it very difficult to do. They weren't keeping timesheets. They were quoting using an estimator and meterage type rates. They weren't keeping timesheets. So it's kind of hard to understand whether labour allowances and materials allowances for carpentry were right or not. It's easy when we were talking about kitchen guys or bricklayers or whatever because they were subcontractors. But we thought they were doing okay. But almost within 5 minutes of looking, we saw that rubbish removal, they'd allowed $700 and they had invoices for more than $1,500. There was a mistake. There wasn't enough of an allowance for rubbish removal. So right away, within minutes, we saw a problem, which of course throws into question all the rest of the allowances and what's going on. So now we're quite focused on going through that process, starting to keep timesheets and understand where the labour goes. Right? And that was 5 minutes, I promise you. Another builder client really resisted doing this exercise. He was busy. He wanted to focus on winning more jobs. He thought it was painful and stupid. And I had to work on him for quite some time to persuade him. Eventually he caved in and he did it. And he came back to me embarrassed and pissed off because his carpenters were taking a lot longer to build roof trusses, frame out a roof, than he'd allowed. And in fact, he was down $14,000. A couple of weeks of work for several guys was over on what he'd estimated or what he'd allowed for in his quote to build this house. Right? So he was glad to be fixing that. It was a big hole in his profit on that job. Another story, a kitchen designer I work with, kitchen designer and fitter. We've been doing it for his jobs. And it's been helping him see where he was kind of being wrong-headed. Right? He wasn't charging for his project management time, even though he was putting lots of time in. And he was absorbing variations. And he was generally underselling himself and his expertise. And then seeing some jobs where he'd made losses or no money and realizing and remembering how hard he'd worked made him get brave about charging properly, charging for his time properly, charging enough margin on top of the other trades and the materials, generally making sure that he made some profit on every job. And guess what? He's now in profit. And he's actually gone from struggling to saying to me just this week, I've got 15,000 in the bank still and I've paid everybody, right? So he's gone from a bit shit to well, and we can now go to grow and build him the business that he wanted. That's a nice story. Another builder with a fairly large number of jobs on the go at all times. We did this exercise, this jobs reconciliation exercise, and there were 2 jobs very much in the red, losing 12 and 25,000 respectively. And as we dug in, he said, you know what, it's me when I quote. I'm underestimating the amount of time it takes for the site works, for the groundworks. I thought it would be easier than it was. So he's gone back to his quoting tool and he's changed the allowances that he makes for the earthworks and the site works, so he doesn't make that mistake again. Now, I hope you're persuaded, right? Your numbers are important and they're useful, right? They're not just for tax. They're not just for working out at the end of the day. They're useful insights into what's going on in your business. And I want you to pay attention to them. I know this is a bit of work. It is a bit of work. You don't have to do it all. You know, your bookkeeper, your accountant can help you. Your admin people can do the work for you. There are many ways to get this stuff to happen. It doesn't all have to be you. I know you're busy. So please do it. Start by downloading the workbook, having another read, letting this stuff percolate. Watch the next video. That's 20 minutes. And then download the tracker and figure out how to get that happening, right? Whether it's yourself or whether you give it to your bookkeeper and say, can you do this? I don't really mind. Or because it's free, right? It doesn't cost you anything to at least start this process. Or, of course, book a 10-minute chat and we'll talk about business coaching. And if we do go ahead and work together, we'll do the tracker. Or come to my next Tools Down workshop. Or do all 3. Fill your boots. See you later.